Welcome to another edition of the Ask Isaiah YouTube page where we cover basketball. I just finished watching the Los Angeles Lakers versus the San Antonio Spurs. The Lakers pulled out an overtime victory, 125 to 121 over the San Antonio Spurs, a hard-fought victory, a victory in which the Lakers were on the road in a battle-tested environment. Although towards the end of the game, the Spurs fans turned into Laker fans. It was just that much of an exciting game, bucket after bucket, play after play. You started to see the fans wane, depending on which side was making the plays. Nevertheless, though, the Spurs, always extremely well coached by the great Greg Popovich, despite not having the star power of the Lakers, still put up a formidable effort. The Lakers were led by Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, playing without LeBron James for the first time this season. He was dealing with ankle soreness, dealing with or that he sustained from a tough fall late in that Memphis Grizzlies game. He continued to stay in the Grizzlies game, in which they definitely needed his presence. He scored 19.6 rebounds, 6 assists in a 121-118 victory on Sunday night over the Grizzlies. But the Lakers coaching staff thought better of it tonight, considering the fact that they have a back-to-back against the Oklahoma City Thunder coming up. You rest LeBron probably today and tomorrow, and get back home, in which he'll have that home cooking, have a couple of days of rest, and hopefully he'll get back on the floor. Nevertheless, though, in this particular game, some of the same flaws that we've seen throughout the season so far are presenting themselves against the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs had a tremendous outing from Jakob Poeltl. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce his last name, although he had a career high tonight. Just really putting himself in position to score off pick and roll set up by DeJounte Murray and others, Keldon Johnson. When you look at his field goal percentage, 13 and 17 from the floor, all of those baskets at the rim. DeJounte Murray tonight, 21 points in 40 minutes, 9 of 24 from the floor. He had 12 rebounds, 15 assists. He had a triple-double tonight. And that's saying something, considering the fact that he was going against the triple-double king, Russell Westbrook. We'll get to his night very shortly. But the Spurs were spectacular from the field tonight, especially from three as a unit. They had 13 threes, and they really challenged the Lakers. They moved the basketball. They got on the offensive glass and were able to just keep the game within striking distance. And then as they took the lead and we saw a seesaw game, that the latter part of that third quarter, we saw the Spurs get up to an 18-3 run and push their lead up to 12. It looked as if the game seemed to be slipping away from the Lakers. Frank Vogel called a timeout, settled things down. We saw Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis take over in that fourth quarter, something that we hadn't seen really from Westbrook since he's become a Laker. He's really been struggling to find his assertiveness as a scorer. In the previous game, he got going offensively as a playmaker. He had 13 assists against Memphis. Tonight, he had 8 assists, but we saw the attack mode, and that was necessary being that you didn't have LeBron. Anthony Davis tonight, spectacular from the field. He had 17 rebounds, 35 points. He had 4 blocks. He had an injury scare as well. He went down in the latter part of that fourth quarter, was throbbing at his knee, and he really looked as if he had a significant injury. He took some time to rest, got up, walked a little gingerly, but he was able to finish the fourth quarter and overtime, which definitely helped the Lakers down the stretch, especially defensively. When I speak about how the Spurs have been able to score, it was really reminiscent of what we've seen throughout the season. I mentioned the three-point line. The opposition for the Lakers has hit timely threes all season so far, and the Lakers really can't sustain much separation. The difference between these previous 2 games and what we've seen against both Phoenix and Golden State, in which both of those against the Lakers lost, the Lakers have been able to find rotations down the stretch that have been really formidable. And I think that Frank Vogel has taken a concerted effort to adjust his rotations and stick with those rotations. He's not just putting people in the game because they're names. He plays Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan early. He gets them engaged. He gets them involved. If they're active on the boards, he's keeping them in the game. But towards the end of the game, he takes them out for stability in terms of being able to run with faster teams. He brings in Bazemore, who plays more minutes, especially on the perimeter defensively. He's still not providing much shooting, but he's supposed to be the defensive stopper. On Sunday, he got cooked all game versus John Morant. He got cooked tonight as well, but he was much more of a threat defensively against DeJounte versus against Ja, because Ja is in attack mode consistently. He puts you in a vulnerable position. In terms of what the Spurs have been able to do, all season their games have been close. Just recently, they lost a tough game to Milwaukee, the defending champions. We saw Giannis Antetokounmpo put on a masterclass performance. Chris Middleton also coming up with some huge shots down the stretch to close out that game. And this is no different. Although the Spurs are relatively young compared to the vets that the Lakers have, and Greg Popovich is really trying to recalibrate this Spurs team from the Spurs that we know from yesteryear, championship contenders year in and year out. This is a young team that's still trying to establish a consistent identity. They have some talent, and obviously with the spectacular coach like Popovich, they're always going to be a challenging team. But again, just being able to have that go-to guy consistently to finish games and just stand up against veteran teams like this. This particular Spurs team is very, very similar to where the New England Patriots are right now, with Mac Jones, with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick being a spectacular coach, everybody respects him, but in terms of being a threat every game, it's very, very difficult for them to finish games to the caliber that we've seen from previous years. For the Lakers, though, they'll take the win. I think they're much more confident now watching Westbrook have one of his masterclass games because they know that it's still there. Coming into this game, he was shooting horribly from three. Many people question whether he would fit with LeBron and AD. People were calling for him to come off the bench, which I thought was a bit premature considering the fact that the season is just getting started. But when you are Russell Westbrook and you're playing on the Los Angeles Lakers, you're playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, everything tends to be an overreaction. And in the fashion in which they've lost some games, a lot of his bad play can be at the root of why they're losing. He's not the reason they're losing, but in terms of fan reaction and how critical they are of his game, people are using his game as the reason for why they were losing those games. So to see him perform under pressure, to finish out games, and to have two positive outcomes for the Lakers going forward, that should draw more confidence. Now, you have some easy games coming up the rest of for the next couple of days. You got the Thunder, you got the Rockets. You just finished defeating the San Antonio Spurs. You defeated the Memphis Grizzlies. Going into next week, the Lakers could have a pretty solid record at 7-2, and if they do that, then all will be forgiven, and we'll see where other contenders like the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets are, and we'll see where the analysts and things of that nature are looking at the Lakers going forward in terms of championship pedigree. We'll see how it goes, but for tonight, they pulled out a tough hard-fought victory without LeBron James on the road. They faced some adversity, considering AD almost went down with the big knee injury. You got to give a huge shout out as well to Malik Monk. Malik Monk has really been trying to establish himself again, and this Laker opportunity gives him a chance to win for the first time in his NBA career. To really win. He's playing a substantial role right now. Tonight, played exceptionally well. In 39 minutes, he made 4 of 10 from three. He scored 17 points, 6 of 15 from the floor. And again, his ability to stretch the floor and play really, really fearless basketball under pressure is what the Lakers will need. Now, they don't necessarily have all the shooters that they anticipated they would have. You have Wayne Ellington out. You have Kendrick Nunn out. Also, Trevor Ariza, who's been known to knock down threes every now and then, is also out. So with these injuries, it's forcing other players to step up. I mentioned Monk. You also have Austin Reeves, who's been spectacular for the Lakers. Tonight, Reeves, 10 points. His ability to stretch the floor, even though he only made 2 threes tonight, he's always a threat to stretch the floor, and that's what you need. You need someone that the defense can keep, that can keep the defense honest when he's on the floor. He played well tonight. Also, Rondo, in 5 minutes, Rondo tonight played just 15 minutes. Pardon me, he played 20 minutes, but he was 4 of 9 from the floor. He attacked the basket consistently. And again, just being the alternative to Westbrook when he goes to the bench as a playmaker. His chemistry with Anthony Davis has always been well documented, even going back to New Orleans days. So to see him, playing and being the complement to Westbrook when he had to go to the bench, it flowed really well for Frank Vogel. Now for the Lakers, I mentioned their schedule coming up. If they are able to really do what they're supposed to do for this week, they should be, or they should put themselves in position to create some separation in the West. You got Oklahoma City on Wednesday, Cleveland on Friday, Houston on Sunday and Tuesday, and then Oklahoma City on Thursday. So going into next week, before their Portland game on Saturday, November 6th, they would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games against teams that will be considered some of the bottom feeders going forward in the season. So if they are able to beat those young teams, although all those teams I just named are very scrappy, if they are able to beat those teams, they should have a very, very solid record before they go on the road to play Portland on November 6th. So let's see where they fall by then. We'll be here to cover it all. We'll also be here to cover different teams as well. So stay tuned for more, as this was another Ask Isaiah NBA presentation coming to you tonight. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching. Peace.